Hi, welcome to the Market Alert for Thursday, 30th of November 2017. A lot of stuff going on yesterday. We'll come to in just a moment with the Dow and Bitcoin, but rather bland on the pound. Obviously still watching, waiting to see what's happening with the European deal, but the pound rallying a bit. We had a buy signal, but then the market failed to move higher. Got selling pressure here. You can see the range of this bar is less, the volume is greater, that's why it's in red, alerting you to some potential weakness. The market comes back, see the selling coming in there, but then the selling disappears as the market trades sideways. And then what they do is move the market down, see if anybody else wants to sell. Nobody wants to sell, they buy back the market, and then off we go. And then of course, as it's quiet on the overnight, you're then free to do exactly the same. Nobody selling after this bar or this bar. That's the low. As the market came back, you can see across there, bit of selling, then it's gone, and then let's have a retest. That disappears, and then you get a cluster of buying, and then the market moving back to the upside. And now again, you can see the European markets kicking in. Got a bit of profit take in there, but then there's some support, but that's disappeared at the moment. So watch this level here, which is going to be the 134.50 level. In the daily chart, it is actually still moving up in the bigger picture, and this is why I use daily charts, because it's great to see how the bigger picture is panning out. You see there where the market switched, the average changed to green, and the market's been moving higher. The 76% retracement that we drew in the other day, 135, keep an eye on this. We're through the 76% that we've drawn in here as well, which is what I call a rolling one. So we're through there. So let's remove this one and put back the other one. It's obviously linked there. Let's just there we go. Let's get rid of the 62. There we go. So the 76 is there, and we'll save that. So watch 76%, and that'll take you back to the September highs if they break the 76% there. News for today. European news there, unemployment. US has a whole raft of news out today, all of it out at 1:30 until Chicago PMI. And that's out at 2:45, and then we've got 5:30 Kaplan and Carl's speaking at 5:30. I've never heard of this member, don't know whether it's female or male, but speaking at 5:30 and 6 p.m. They're bringing him out at the moment. Yellen was out yesterday, but again, more on that as we go forward. So let's have a look at not Bitcoin yet. Let's just go to the Dow. Yes, yesterday they moved the market in the pre-market session because Yellen was going to be speaking. So you see the Dow being pushed higher. This is a pattern that we're getting at the moment with the Dow. They did this the day before as well, which we spoke about yesterday. And then as soon as we got into the main part of the session, they managed to bring the market up to 23,950, and then Yellen's out at 3, which I warned about yesterday. You don't want to be in the markets when Yellen's speaking because nobody believes a word that she says anymore. And then of course we also saw, which I'm just going to switch for a second, we saw the FANG tech stocks selling off as well. That's Facebook, Amazon, Netflix and Google. And we saw them have a bit of a pullback yesterday as well. So that was another thing that pulled back the Dow. Again, you'd expect the Dow just to go up and do the 24,000, but not quite. However, as you'll see here on the overnight market, they are going to do it as night follow days. They are going to go ahead for the 24,000. And what I'm looking forward to is the start of the new year. Nothing happens, no crashes, nothing has ever happened in December before. And it never will, because they're not going to get indigestion from eating the turkey on Christmas Day, wondering how the portfolios are, and also we're having to work would be another thing as well. So the Dow is back towards that all-time high. It just needs to take out the 23,959 high that we saw yesterday. There's a bit of buying around as well, according to the volume, but we did have low volume over the previous days because obviously we had Thanksgiving last week, so we're starting to see an increase there, driving prices higher. And let's just go through. No, tell you what, let's have a look at Bitcoin. It was wild yesterday. I'm going to show you in the PPT software. Again, you can't trade it on ETX. This is the data is coming from ETX, so even though the signals at the moment they're not taking bets on the buy side. A lot of volatility yesterday. You can see that here. We had a bit of a crash down. The market always fills the gap, and I was talking to somebody yesterday afternoon, and as it started to fall apart, I said don't be surprised if the gap isn't filled, because that's what the market does. It was a tall order, but it did it on the overnight session there. So sideways, could do with a good pullback in this to buy it. And yeah, if you look at the 60-minute, you can see how they move the price down on the overnight there. No volume, but you've got that same price action that I keep talking about, where it came off the lows. That third's divisible by 3 again. Yeah, so very interesting, but it did start to fall apart yesterday afternoon. And I'll say fall apart, it just had some profit taken, and that's what this does. I mean, to watch a market actually drop 1,500 points in a few hours was quite something. But the other issue, you know, desperate to actually find a way of spread betting this, but yesterday again, when I was talking to somebody, I was sharing the screen, and then all of a sudden the spreads widened. We started off last week at 23 points with a company called Intertrader. They then went to 40, which you know I've spoken of in the market alert, and then yesterday when this turmoil happened, they then switched to 60 points spread. So they're doing their damnedest to try and keep everybody out of this, because they know they're going to get shafted on the buy side. So yeah, interesting. And sometimes they wouldn't even take a price. It was showing just waiting for price on some of the other spread betting platforms. So it needs to calm down. Let's see what the CME does when it comes in. I'm hoping that we'll see a correction down to this sort of level. The market will trade sideways. The volatility will come out of it. A lot of people no doubt getting burnt by chasing this sort of market. You've got to wait for the pullbacks in this market before actually getting in. You see here, you've got, and it just makes common sense. You know, you're not going to miss out on this. This is going to be big. It's not a bubble, in the sense that you'll get small bubbles along the way, but this is a change in paradigm. If you understand the blockchain, and I would suggest you have a look at videos on YouTube. I didn't understand it until a couple of weeks ago, and I started looking at it. And the blockchain is the key to this. It's not the Bitcoin itself, but it's the platform and how it's traded with the trust element. Again, have a look. But this, buy on pullbacks, and you'll get them. You will get them, like we saw yesterday. And of course, what was also interesting yesterday, if I can find it, lots of stuff yesterday. Let's just get rid of that, see if it will turn up. Bitcoin flash crash, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I had this error yesterday as well. That there was a problem trying to get in. I wasn't interested in selling any Bitcoin, but trying to get into the account, error occurred, and this is going to be a recurring theme as this starts to develop. Say we are so early into this, everybody thinks 10,000, you've missed it. You haven't missed it at all. But it does come with problems, and that's trying to get out of a position if you wanted to by using these crypto exchanges. They just can't cope with the demand when it all starts going pear-shaped. As in what we saw yesterday, when we get the selling coming into the market like this. It's very difficult to log in, because obviously 21 million users inside of Coinbase, more than Charles Schwab, is causing a bit of a problem there for their servers. So again, something else to keep in mind. That's why I was looking at alternatives to take advantage of this, but at the moment it's proving slightly difficult given the level of volatility. But it will calm down, and there will be a trading opportunity with this. I have absolutely no doubts whatsoever going forward. But as you're looking at this, and if you've not seen it before, you're seeing it where the volatility is ripe at the moment, but they always calm down One good thing about the CME will be if they bring out the options contracts, which I'm told they're going to, and that's actually just jogged a thought as well. They're desperate to not miss out on this as well. NASDAQ to launch futures contract as well, so it's not just the CME but also the NASDAQ exchange as well is wanting to launch a contract. I'll be there in a minute. There's a AVG thing, it's a pain in the you know what. Right, somewhere NASDAQ to launch Bitcoin futures. So this came from Reuters yesterday. No surprise there at all. You're going to see a lot more of this come on board. This will stabilize things, but the good news is, when I mean stabilize, you'll get 100, 200 point movements each way each day, and that'll be fantastic, if not more. But it just needs to sort out with the spread betting firms on this widening of the spread when it becomes volatile and everything, because they've been shafted. I have no doubts about that, which is why some of them won't take a buy-side deal at the moment. And again, that comes down to the fact that the Bitcoin trades 24/7 and these exchanges don't. So will it be Bitcoin that will force the markets to trade 7 days a week? Who knows? And there you go. So another piece of news on that one. Let's get rid of this. Yeah, so we got the bit of Bitcoin crash there. It isn't a crash, a flash crash. It's nonsense. It's just filling the gap. This is well worth a read. Bitcoin nuclear war and the real world use argument. This is the gold bugs, and I'm a gold bug. I own physical metals, precious metals, and will continue to do so. I'm looking forward to when the blockchain is actually linked into the precious metals. Then you'll see the same sort of returns on those sorts of real items as well. And again, this is well worth reading on the real argument about whether gold is better than Bitcoin and that sort of thing. There's also a brilliant interview that I listened to at the weekend with Jim Sinclair, known as Mr. Gold, Bill Holt, Bixweir, and Cliff High. And that's about 2.5 hours long. But again, you've got these the sort of the cryptos against the gold bugs. And to really understand this, they were sort of arguing their corners and their cases against each other, but it turned out in the end that those that were sort of negative on Bitcoin actually came around when they understand the concept of the blockchain, the trust element in it, and whatever. It doesn't matter what the vehicle is, whether it's Bitcoin or any other coin, it's the blockchain that's important. And again, like I say, have a look on YouTube about what the blockchain is, and then you'll understand why there is a paradigm shift coming. It's a bit like the beginning of email, and as I said yesterday, mobile phones would never take off, and IBM said they would never see a day when everybody would own a computer, and there would be they would only see why there could be only 5 computers sold globally, and yet everybody's got a smartphone now, and that's why this is important as well. Particularly with the younger generations, everything digital. So again, Apple Pay and that sort of thing is already here, and this is why this crypto thing is a paradigm change. It's not a speculative bubble, although there is obviously speculation at the moment. Again, it's a matter of sitting down and doing your own research on this. Right, going back to Yellen before we conclude. Kashkari responds to zero hedge. Fed's job is not to protect investors. You wouldn't think that, would you, having printed close on 15 trillion to keep the world economy afloat, as it says in this report yesterday with Janet Yellen. She had her last semi-annual testimony before Congress yesterday as Fed chair. And it's interesting when you get down to here, the bit that they're referring to there, did she actually mention it without mentioning it, is here, Yellen, I'm strongly opposed to audit the Fed. And she said this a few months ago. And it's interesting, isn't it? You see, this is the thing with the blockchain. It's completely transparent, it's decentralized, and you can see exactly what's going on. And as it says there now, with Bitcoin now roughly 4 times higher at 11,000, not quite obviously because it's come down overnight, and rising exponentially, those who did as the above photo suggested can probably retire. And that's when I started looking at Bitcoin, but did nothing about it. I hold my hands up there because I didn't understand what it was about. But I've spent the last few months looking at it and trying to understand it. And definitely, yes, you will get bubbles, but it's not a bubble that's going to disappear anytime soon. I don't think anyway, but again, because of the transparency with the blockchain element. Yes, it's a bit of a dinosaur at the moment, but as more and more technology comes into it, then you will see things change. So that's the other bit. Yeah, yield curve. Let's not get away from the standard economics as well and be overshadowed by what's going on with Bitcoin. I just wanted to bring you up to speed with that, what's happening at the moment. But the yield curve as well, this printing of vast amounts of money, 15 trillion or whatever it is that Bernanke pumped into the system. Be warned, the yield curve is still flattening. We had this before 2007, and that's why I'm looking forward to the new year to see how this lot starts to pan out through 2018. 2018 is going to be a very, very interesting year. The stock market won't be able to hold on these levels, and as everybody transitions across to other investments chasing yields, i.e. in Bitcoin and that sort of thing, and cryptocurrencies, then you're going to see more and more pressures on the stock markets, as we saw yesterday with the FANG stocks. So the yield curve is still flattening. This is throughout 2017. You can see there as I just move across. If we go back to 2 years ago and look, you can see how it's starting to flatten. Very important to keep your eyes on this. As I say, in a conventional sense of economics, which still prevails as well and still is important, these things are going on in the background as well. Right, quick look at the implied volatility before we conclude. So we've got the implied volatility moving higher yesterday, as you'd expect, with the volatility that was in the markets and the FANG stocks up to 996 from 850. No surprise there. So again, expect this to drop down a bit as the Dow's up on the overnight, heading towards the 24,000. Let's see how the market reacts when it gets to this level. Is that going to be the top? It'll certainly be the top before Christmas. And once they've trousered the bonuses and we get into the new year, it's certainly going to be very, very interesting. I'm really looking forward to 2018 from the financial markets. This year it's been a bit quiet and whatever, but with the cryptocurrencies kicking off in the latter part, in the final quarter, things are going to get very interesting going into January. The launch of the futures contracts, it's going to make all markets volatile, not just the Bitcoin. So don't focus on those words exclusively, because all the other currencies against the cryptos and everything else, really exciting times ahead in all markets. So if we can't spread bet the Bitcoin because the spreads are too wide initially, then we'll be able to take advantage in other markets as well. As the big money comes, I'm telling you now, the big money, the institutions are not even in Bitcoin yet. This is just the masses, the people who can see that the decentralized system is what's attracting people. But of course, the institutions are chasing yield. When you've got the flattening of the yield curve and the stock markets at record highs, and they're all in bubbles. These are bubbles. From QE money, then it's going to be interesting to see how and where the money is going to go once the futures contracts are launched, and also ETFs. There's going to be Bitcoin ETFs as well for parking your money in. So a lot to actually come and look forward to. Right, that'll do it for today. Apologies it's so long, but there's an awful lot at times just to get out there, and a lot of questions I get, so I'll try and answer those in the market alerts as well instead of individually. So that'll do it for today. Let's keep an eye on the 24,000 level with the Dow. Expect the pound to continue to move towards the upside as they reveal more on the deal with the euro, and Bitcoin, watch some of the froth come out of it, because that's how the markets work, even when, well, they certainly work that way when it's a market that is manipulated, that you get these stops, pullbacks, and it's how in fact Bitcoin is conforming beautifully to fib retracements and that sort of thing, because of it's allowed to work with and respond to the true supply and demand of those that are actually participating in it. Right, that's it. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching.